Hi folks, my name is Ron Timmermans. I'm one of the many hosts for the Florida Aviation Network, and welcome back to our broadcast. We're broadcasting live and in the clear from the Sun and Fun campus at the Sun and Fun Aerospace Expo in Lakeland, Florida. Thank you for watching and thank you for joining us, your loyal followers. And we've got a great program for you in the next few minutes, interviewing a very special person. But I wanted to take just a moment and recognize some folks. You see Ben Coleman, my associate, and me in front of the camera, along with our guests and the like. But there's a whole host of people behind the cameras that you don't get to see, but I wanted to acknowledge them. For instance, we have three camera persons right here in this studio right now that are running the three cameras. We've got a dancing floor manager that works here, a production assistant, and a host of photographers and other support people, drivers and the like. And all of them are what make this entire production possible. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you to all of you who support us here and make this production possible. It is not without you. Without you, we couldn't do any of this. So the next few minutes I wanted to spend talking with a new friend that I've just made, Ms. KT Bud Jones from Kissimmee, Florida, and you represent KT Stallion 51. Welcome to our presentation. It's good to have you.
It's great to be here in so many ways. You say you're broadcasting in the clear. Well, it's severe clear here today. Beautiful weather. Couldn't be better for Sun and Fun being back here in Central Florida, sharing the skies and the history and all these wonderful planes.
Doesn't it feel good to be back?
Oh, there's nothing like it. And you can feel it in the air, no pun intended, and on the ground and on the flight line. Everyone is so happy to be here and realize that the connections that we make through our lives, and because we haven't been able to, because we've all been sort of locked down, that those connections, those personal connections, are really the reason to get up in the morning.
Exactly. I was thinking, and we were talking a few minutes ago about if there's a good that came out of a pandemic, it is our understanding of how important personal relationships and being and be able to touch people and look at them in the eye, even without a mask, as we're doing today, and to speak with them face to face rather than over the telephone.
That interaction is everything, and that sharing of ideas, philosophies, even if they're different, just the fact that you can share.
Indeed.
And that's what Sun and Fun's all about, not only the flying, which is great, but the forums that we have. You get a chance to exchange ideas, hear new ideas, up your game a little bit. We talk about that a lot at Stallion 51, recurrent training, knowing that I need to brush up on my skills, and that can be your wood skills, your fabric skills, your flying skills. You need to keep that skill level up to a certain level, and you need to tune in and tune up every once in a while. So recurrent training is a big thing that we do at Stallion 51. On top of the orientation flights in the Mustang, we make sure you're on the top of your game, especially in a high-performance plane like a P-51 Mustang or a T-6 Texan. There isn't a room for error there, and it'd be a shame to hurt yourself, and more important, it'd be a shame to hurt those great planes. So that's important. And recurrent training is not going for a $100 hamburger with your friend in the other seat, either behind you or next to you. That's not recurrent training or having somebody check your skill level. It's going up with a certified and instructor who is current in his own skill level that can evaluate, you're a little sloppy here, or you need to do this better, or have you tried this? You've never done that before. You can learn a new skill. So that's a big part of what we do at Stallion 51, on top of offering the opportunity to share the cockpit with people who always wanted to fly this quintessential fighter from World War II, the P-51
Indeed.
Mustang.
So let's back up just a bit, KT. So you've mentioned Stallion 51, and you've given us snippets about what it is that you do. So Stallion 51 is an organization headquartered at Kissimmee Airport, right? Yes. Southern part of Orlando. KISM is, I believe, the identifier. And so you're on the field there, and people can call in or get on the website and come visit you and sign up for a flight in a P-51 or a T-6.
Because we have dual cockpit, dual control Mustangs. We have TFs, which there's a bit of a debate whether there were actually dual cockpit, dual control Mustangs built during or after World War II, the Temco versions, but there are maybe a dozen, less than 2 dozen, more than a dozen really dual cockpit, dual control Mustangs out there.
And we see some video of one of the P-51s
yes.
right now. There,
That's
look at that
Lee
climb.
doing his quintessential solo Mustang routine, which he's going to be doing Wednesday and the beginning of Saturday Night Air Show.
Oh.
So he's going to be performing twice.
Here at Sun and Fun.
Yes, he is. And right now, you will see both of our Mustangs, both Crazy Horses. One is Crazy Horse, which is our original Mustang that we started Stallion 51 with in 1986, and Crazy Horse 2, which joined our herd, our pack, in 2005. And it's just like Crazy Horse. It's polished where the other one is painted in some places. And they're both here right now, along with Mad Max, which is another dual cockpit, dual control Mustang. So in our hangar, in our corral in Kissimmee, we have 4 dual control, dual cockpit Mustangs.
Wow.
And there's, as I say, more than a dozen, less than 2 dozen in the world.
And you've got
4.
24%.
We got
of them.
4, yeah. We've got quite a few. And
that's
so
good.
that allows us not only to share the Mustang with people with all abilities, all enthusiasts, because we tailor our flights to your expertise, your experience, your expectations. And so you can be a licensed pilot or just someone who's always wanted to experience that flight. And we, of course, share that cockpit with people from all over the world who come and say, this is something I've always wanted to do. And then we also, because it's dual control, dual cockpit, we also can do that recurrent training for people who have already gone through our checkout program. I mean, where else are you going to learn to fly a multi-million-dollar airplane if it's not in a plane that has the opportunity to have dual controls? So we have checkout programs as well. And so those Mustangs are classrooms. And we often call Stallion 51, it's our campus of higher learning there, because we have the T6 that gets you in the cockpit. I mean, she was the pilot maker back in World War II, and she still is today. She will certainly hone your skills and what to do with your feet real fast.
I'm sure.
And then we have the Mustangs. And then we also have the L-39, which is our UAT, or Unusual Attitude Training, Upset Prevention and Recovery Training aircraft. So those are all things that we have on our campus of higher learning. And Kissimmee, like Lakeland, like many of the hundreds of airports in Florida, take you from zero to hero when it comes around to flying. And we have elementary and basic flight training all the way through our Unusual Attitude Training. And that's right at Kissimmee Airport. Of course, Lakeland has very similar training opportunities here, and they all started at World War II. I mean, there were only 6 military fields before World War II started. That was it, 6.
In Florida.
In Florida, and there were almost 300 by the end of World War II. People from all of our allies came here to learn how to fly, and they still do. People from all over the world come here to learn how to fly, because what do we have? Great weather, wonderful airports, good flying conditions, and
P-51s and 2.6s.
And that too, plus all the other ones that are here. We've got seaplanes, we have tail draggers, we have primary training, we've got it all here. Florida is the place to learn how to fly because of our great history of flying. Matter of fact, our first commercial flight was in St. Pete, I want to say, was it 1911, 1912? First commercial flight.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So Florida does enjoy a rich history in aviation, both before the World War II and then certainly since then. And so not to pin down your age, but how long have you lived in Florida?
Oh, it's coming on 40 years.
Good.
Moved down here from Wisconsin. Need I say more?
No, I moved here from Iowa, need I say more.
Then we know,
yeah,
we know.
Just having finished the winter here versus what my friends and family in the Midwest have, I would much rather be here.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
I will put up with the rather warm and humid summers just to not to have to deal with the winters like that. So that's good. So we're in Wisconsin.
Actually, outside of Milwaukee. I saw one of the first air ventures up there when it was in, was that
Rockford?
Rockford, that's right.
Rockford, Illinois.
Before it moved up to Oshkosh. And So out in the country, west of Milwaukee. Now it's not country anymore.
Yeah,
There's hardly any
Waukesha
country.
area or further?
Waukesha, absolutely. I went to Carroll College.
Oh, did you?
Yes,
Okay,
I did.
good,
So,
good.
yeah, it's a lovely area. When you go up there for Oshkosh, you'll be so amazed at how green and lovely, and the people are wonderful in Wisconsin.
They are.
And the summer is lovely for that 2 weeks that they have it.
It is.
Did I say that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, so do you go to AirVenture in Oshkosh in July or with your birds or not?
Stallion has gone there in the past. I haven't gone for a number of years. That doesn't mean that might not happen in the future, but
Yeah.
we're wishing them well for their first big air show.
Yeah, like Sun and Fun last year, Oshkosh event had to cancel as well, and so I'm sure there's a lot of folks that go to that air show that'll be interested in it. Just like there's so many folks that are aficionados of Sun and Fun that are finally back again this year, or if they're not here today, maybe you're coming tomorrow or the next day or through the weekend.
Because there's two air shows for the price of one on Wednesday, because there's a day air show and an evening air show, and the same thing on Saturday.
Exactly.
So what more could you ask for? The weather's gorgeous. Everybody's so friendly. Everybody's so great. I'm telling you, it's like a Warbird Woodstock. It's a love fest here. Everyone is so happy to be here. You cannot walk more than 5 minutes without running into somebody you know. That's unusual. It's just terrific.
Yeah. I heard you say Warbird Woodstock, which is great. So some of our audience probably not old enough to remember Woodstock, an event back in the early 70s. So that was what would we call that?
A gathering of musicians and talent that sort of happened by itself.
In upstate New York, and it will forever be in the memory banks of some of us of that vintage.
Of that era, yes.
That era, yes, indeed. So Warbird and Woodstock kind of go together and describe Sun and Fun to some extent and the like. So KT, you mentioned that you fly the T6s.
Yeah, my husband and I own a T6. We've had her since July 1st, 1998.
Oh, wow.
And she's a family member. We moved up here from Key West, Florida, to actually work for Tom Riley there at Kissimmee Airport. He restored and flew large bombers, still does now up in Douglas, Georgia. He's restored many B-25s and B-17s and B-24s and all sorts of big bombers and others. And we came up to specifically work for him. And when we did, we had the ability to also purchase a T6, which we did once we moved up here. And she's been with us ever since. We now, both my husband and I work for Stallion 51 and Stallion 51 maintenance there at Kissimmee Airport. But hopefully tomorrow we'll be flying her here to be on the flight line as well.
Oh, that's good. So is the T6 in the air show or just on static display?
No, just coming for a visit.
Static display?
Yeah.
Very good. So
Sid, my husband Sid, flies the B-25 Panchito, another fine North American product.
Now that will be in the air show,
yes,
as I recall.
Yes, it will, and he'll probably be flying that in the air show.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And is he known as Frack?
No, that's Larry Kelly.
That's Larry Kelly.
Yes.
Okay, I just happened to see a picture of him recently.
Yes, Larry Kelly actually got Panchito from Tom Riley, or Tom Riley restored it for him, and Sid worked on it 20-some years ago when we moved up here. And so he's known that airplane for a long time, and Larry Kelly. You know, it's a very, for lack of another term, ancestral group. We all know each other. We've all shared planes.
In a good way.
In a very good way. In a very good way. Kissing cousins, let's say, with everybody, because either you've flown in somebody else's plane or knew the person who owned it before them. It's quite the family tree, you know, it's like the DNA, shall we say, because you know where they came from and who owned it, who flew it, and its history. It's its DNA. You
said earlier that if you are able to fly in the T6, that you're going to really understand what happens with rudders or what you need to do with rudders. It's a tail dragger, obviously, and very much
she's a big bone girl.
Big bone girl.
She's a big bone girl. I compare her to a draft horse doing dressage. I mean, once she gets in the air, she's light, she's spunky.
Yeah.
But on the ground, she will slap you silly if you're not
Really?
paying attention.
Well, that's good. So you have to be on your toes or on your
toes and heels, absolutely. And Lee Lauterbach, highest time Mustang pilot in the world, over 10,000 hours in a Mustang alone, says that the Mustang is a great trainer for a T6.
Oh, really? So it's
So that T6 will just slap you silly because she wants you to pay attention. She's not tricky, but she says these are the rules. You will follow them, or I will slap you.
Yeah. Okay. So you fly in the P-51 first, and then upgrade to the T6.
He sort of feels that way. But
Okay.
what happens, and I've seen it time and time again, people will come and want to learn how to fly the Mustang, do a checkout training. And they might have some tail wheel time, maybe Citabria or something, but maybe not enough. And they'll go up and spend a couple of days in the Mustang with us, and they're missing something. They're missing something. Put them in the T6 for about an hour or two, and they got it. She's still the pilot maker. She still teaches you.
Interesting. So, KT, how long have you been flying?
I learned to fly to come up here. Learned when I was 45, and I learned in a Cessna 152. Had 70 hours, and then we got the T6 and transitioned to that.
So you went from a 152 to a T6 in your transition.
But the hardest part was being 45 years old, because you're not fearless at 45. You go, if I mess up, that's going to leave a mark.
Yes,
you don't
indeed.
have that bravado.
And it's going to hurt.
And it's going to hurt. You don't have that bravado. But I was in the right place. Kissimmee Airport was the place to learn. Whether it was Tom Riley or Stallion 51 or any of the other operators there, that was the place. They had a whole cadre of mentors to help you learn what you needed to know, whether it was working on it or flying it. And there are a lot of airports just like that in Florida.
Do you work on them too?
Oh yeah, we just got done with our annual. My husband's an A&P and an IA, and I have hands that fit into the hub of the propeller just right. So
you can do some of the maintenance that he can't.
I do, yeah. It's tough.
So earlier today we had two young women involved in aviation that talked about opportunities, lots of opportunities for women in aviation. How do you see it?
Well, you got to make your own way. You've got to be prepared. I've had a couple careers in my life that were very male-oriented, and you had to sort of elbow your way in. You had to make sure you were good. You had to make sure you were there on time, ready to go, and knew your stuff. So if you're that way, I think you can make it at any field.
So the same thing holds true in aviation?
I think so. I know there are not that many. What does they say, 6% in aviation? I don't know for what particular reason, but we just interviewed Angela West and Lee Lauterbach are big supporters of the ACE program here, the education program, and their program, Stratus program, which is the upper crust, shall we say. And the best of the best will be flying back with Lee on Sunday. And there are 2 girls and 1 young man in the best of the best group that will be considered flight lead. That is someone who really rises to the top and not only is a leader of their own life, but a leader of others.
So knowing your stuff, being a leader, stepping up to being a leader and the like gets you someplace in aviation regardless of your gender.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
There's no reason that it should make a difference. You just got to be there, be ready to take the opportunities that are given you.
Seize the moment.
Seize the moment.
Indeed. And 2 of them are flying back to Kissimmee?
No, one. There's 3 students that are in this Stratus program that are being considered for the flight lead from this ACE program, the education program. And Angela is going to be picking one of them to fly back with Lee, who has risen to the top.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
How fulfilling and how exciting for that
It is.
young person.
And if you don't foster this next generation, general aviation is going to disappear.
Yeah.
You need advocates that make sure that we have the freedom to fly in the future.
Indeed. So what's going to happen with these treasured World War II airplanes that you have and a few other folks have around the country and Commemorative Air Force keeps flying? Are we going to be able to keep them flying for a long time to come, do you think?
That is a very good question. And part of the problem is not finding the pilots, but is finding the people who can work on them.
Yeah.
There are less and less people to work on round engines, radial engines. It's really hard to find someone who is capable of working in these pressurized carburetors, et cetera, et cetera. Parts are there, especially North American aviation parts are there. But people to work on them is another story. So that's really where we need to be mentoring people, young people, is is in the shop saying, this is how you work on these planes, because A&P school is not teaching how to do some of these things.
I'm sure not, particularly not the older
You want to keep them
airplanes.
flying, you got to keep them ready to go.
Would you say, just from your experience, for every hour of flight, how much supporting time? Is that a scary amount?
Oh God, I don't know. A lot.
Is it? Okay.
A lot, depending on the plane. I think radial engines, which is the reason the Navy only used radial engine aircraft on aircraft carriers during World War II. It's because they were reliable, and that you could shoot out a jug and they'll still get you back to the aircraft carrier. That you might not have to work on them every hour for you fly, but some of the other ones are maybe a little more sensitive.
Sensitive, okay. Well, here's hoping that we will continue to train and inspire mechanics to work on these beautiful airplanes that are just absolute treasures, that we really should hold up and just make sure that we maintain them. And I applaud you and your husband and Lee and all the folks that support you at Stallion 51. It's quite an undertaking, I'm sure. And it's also wonderful that you're providing flying experiences for those of us who wish to do that and can afford it. It's a great opportunity, I'm sure, for many people to just to live their dream for an hour flight in it, or to get checked out in it, or whatever.
There's so many of those around here, whether you're a seaplane or whether it's a Cub or a Stearman or a Mustang or a T6 or any, so many of them. They're all available here in Central Florida.
Very good. So a lot of things to do and see and to fly here in Central Florida.
Absolutely.
And so one of the places is at Stallion 51 in Kissimmee Airport. So KT Bud Jones, for joining us today, I thank you very much. It's great to get to meet you and know some more about what you do at Stallion 51 and the opportunities for all of us to fly these fabulous aircraft and to learn about them, as well as the Florida aviation history that we've learned from you today. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm Ron Timmermans with the Florida Aviation Network. It's good to have you here. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned. There's more yet to come on the Florida Aviation Network live stream broadcast.